Jacob always believed in love. He thought strong relationships were built on trust, compromise, and care. But over the years, his marriage turned into an invisible game, one where only she made the rules. Her weapon was simple, but ruthless: silence. The moment he said no, she became distant, cold, untouchable. At first, he gave in, thinking it was easier that way. Then, he convinced himself that this was just how relationships worked. But one day, something inside him snapped. He stopped fearing her silence. He started living for himself. And that's when everything changed. How far can manipulation go when disguised as love? Can one person completely control another without ever raising their voice? This story isn't just about marriage. It's about the power we give to those we're afraid to lose. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Now, let's get started. My name is Jacob, and today, I want to recount an experience that nearly tore my marriage apart, but ultimately transformed my entire understanding of relationships. My wife Diana and I have been together for many years. Like any couple, we've experienced both joy and hardship. However, over time, I began to notice a pattern, one I regret not recognizing sooner. Whenever Diana was displeased or didn't get her way, she never voiced her concerns directly. Instead of arguing or explaining her feelings, she would retreat into silence, shutting me out completely. Her quiet withdrawal wasn't just a means of avoiding conflict, it was intentional. Rather than engaging in discussion, she would withhold affection. Initially, I dismissed it, assuming she simply needed space or was in a bad mood. But the more I observed, the clearer it became. This wasn't a passing reaction. It was a calculated response. If I denied her a request, whether it was a favor, a decision, or something seemingly trivial, her demeanor would shift instantly. It wasn't merely a matter of physical distance. She became detached, indifferent, and cold. At first, I found myself conceding to her wishes just to maintain peace. I reassured her, attempted to ease the tension, and even altered my stance to restore harmony. And each time I relented, the moment I gave her what she wanted, she reverted to her usual affectionate and cheerful self, as if nothing had ever been wrong. Looking back now, I see how clearly she had mastered the art of control without raising her voice, without arguing, and without needing to ask twice. All she had to do was make me feel like I was losing her. And for the longest time, I fell right into the trap. I convinced myself that giving in was the only way to keep our relationship intact. But then, something shifted. I reached my breaking point. The exhaustion of feeling like I had to constantly earn my wife's affection wore me down, and I decided I wasn't going to continue playing this game. The moment that brought everything into sharp focus revolved around an expensive designer bag, an exclusive item Diana fixated on, treating it as an absolute necessity rather than a luxury. She had been hinting at it for weeks. It wasn't just something she desired. In her mind, it was something she was entitled to. I had no issue treating my wife when I could, but the way she spoke about this bag, as though I owed it to her, left a sour taste in my mouth. One evening, she brought it up again. We were sitting in the living room when she pulled up the image on her phone, her tone more expectant than hopeful. "My birthday's coming up. This is the one I want." There was no excitement in her voice, only certainty, like a deal being sealed. I glanced at the price. It wasn't impossible, but it also wasn't an amount I could justify spending impulsively. "Diana, I know how much you want it, and I promise I'll get it for you," I said, keeping my voice measured. "Just not right now." I chose my words carefully, ensuring I didn't sound dismissive. I wasn't refusing her request, just postponing it. But to Diana, that distinction didn't matter. Her expression darkened immediately. With an exaggerated sigh, she tossed her phone onto the couch. Then, without another word, she withdrew into silence. I could practically see her calculating her next move. how to make me regret not giving in right away. Finally, she broke the silence. You say, "Not now," like that actually means something. I remained composed and shrugged. It does. Soon, Diana. I just need to take care of a few other things first. That wasn't the answer she wanted. Forget it, she muttered, standing up and disappearing into the bedroom. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank television screen, reflecting on how we had ended up in this place. When had our conversations turned into power struggles? When had compromise been replaced by coercion? Later that night, I followed my usual bedtime routine and slipped into bed beside her. Normally, I would reach for her, a simple touch, an arm around her, pulling her close. Nothing unusual, just a small expression of affection between partners. The second my arm brushed against her, she recoiled. "Don't!" Her voice was devoid of emotion. I blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "I'm not in the mood," she said, as if I had crossed some invisible boundary. But all I had done was attempt a simple touch. This was deliberate, a punishment. "I just wanted to hold you," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Well, I don't want you to." She didn't even look at me. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling something within me shift. This wasn't the first time. Every time I didn't comply with her demands, she withdrew affection. Every disagreement led to silence, emotional distance, and now, outright rejection. And every time, I had been the one to apologize, the one to smooth things over, just to return to a fragile sense of normalcy. But that night, for the first time, I saw it for what it truly was. This wasn't about love. It wasn't about understanding. It was manipulation. For the first time, I refused to play along. I wasn't going to beg for my wife's affection like a desperate child seeking approval. I had made up my mind. This time, everything was going to change. I was done playing this game. Instead of draining myself in pursuit of her approval, I redirected that effort toward myself. In the days that followed, I started reclaiming the parts of me that had been neglected. The guitar that had been collecting dust in the corner. I strummed its strings again. The books I had abandoned halfway, I finally turned their last pages. I even resumed working out, not as a means to impress Diana, but because I enjoyed investing in myself. If she chose not to engage with me, that was her prerogative. If she wanted distance, I wouldn't stand in her way. I had no interest in chasing her anymore. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't consumed by the need to fix something that wasn't mine to fix. So I let it be. The transformation came naturally. I was done centering my world around someone who only reciprocated when it suited her. At social gatherings, I didn't shrink into the background. I was still the same lively, engaging person. I simply stopped reserving that energy for Diana alone. When her friends were around, I joined the conversation instead of fading into silence. I paid attention, offered compliments when I noticed a new haircut or an updated style. I laughed freely, contributed to the banter, and made sure to genuinely connect. I maintained eye contact, listened with interest, and engaged with authenticity. And the response was unmistakable. They laughed at my jokes. They sought me out in conversations. They enjoyed my company. I no longer lingered near Diana at social events. I became a presence of my own. I wasn't performing. I was simply present. I made people feel valued, and in turn, they gravitated toward me. And Diana noticed. She wasn't used to seeing me this way, relaxed, confident, effortlessly engaged. She was accustomed to me waiting for her, relying on her to determine when I was worth attention. But for once, I wasn't chasing. I was simply being myself, and that version of me was in demand. Diana had always felt secure in the dynamic she controlled. But now, my focus had shifted. At first, she didn't seem concerned. She likely assumed I was sulking, biding my time until she decided to acknowledge me again. But when she saw how easily I connected with her friends, something shifted. I wasn't watching her. I wasn't waiting. Her friends took note as well. They lingered longer, laughed more, included me in conversations in ways they never had before. Some even started reaching out to me directly, rather than funneling their messages through Diana. And that, more than anything, caught her off guard. One evening, at a casual gathering, Sabrina, one of Diana's closest friends, laughed a little too enthusiastically at one of my jokes, her hand playfully brushing my arm. It was innocent, but Diana stiffened. Then, Patricia grinned and teased, "Where has this version of your husband been hiding? I don't think I've ever seen him this fun." Diana didn't respond, but she definitely noticed, and from there, things only escalated. Layla, another friend, nudged Diana and joked, "If you ever get tired of him, send him my way." It was light-hearted, but Diana didn't laugh. In the days that followed, she became more watchful. I could feel her attention on me at every social event, analyzing each conversation, each smile, each shared moment. One evening, I walked into the bedroom to grab something and found her sitting on the edge of the bed, my phone in her hands. She was so focused, she didn't even realize I had entered. When she finally noticed me, she quickly set it down, feigning indifference. The irony? There was nothing for her to find. I had done nothing wrong. And yet, the fact that she felt the need to check spoke volumes. She felt control slipping from her grasp, and she knew it. The more she searched for proof of wrongdoing, the more frustrated she became when she found nothing. I wasn't sneaking around. I wasn't betraying her trust, and that realization unsettled her more than anything. Then, one evening, I arrived home to find her looking different. Instead of her usual oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, she wore a fitted dress that flattered her figure. Her hair was styled, her makeup subtly applied. She wasn't going anywhere. She was simply at home. But it was clear she wanted to be noticed. The shift in her demeanor continued. Suddenly, she was making an effort to talk to me again, asking about my day, laughing at things she once ignored, slipping in compliments. "You've been looking really good lately," she remarked casually while setting the dinner table. I simply nodded, thanked her, and kept my tone neutral. In the past, I would have jumped at the opportunity to bridge the gap, to fall back into the familiar rhythm where I sought her approval. But not this time. I saw it for what it was. She was testing the waters, seeing if she could lure me back in, if she still held the power to decide when I was worthy of her attention. But this time, the game had changed, and she knew it. She started cooking my favorite meals. At first, I dismissed it as a random coincidence, but by the third time that week, it was impossible to ignore. Diana had never been one to suddenly embrace the role of the doting wife without a hidden motive. In the past, these gestures always came with an expectation, a silent contract where my appreciation was the currency. But this time, I didn't indulge her. I kept our conversations polite, took my place at the table, and responded when necessary, but I no longer sought her validation. For the first time, she was experiencing the imbalance she had once carefully engineered. The power dynamic she had controlled for so long was shifting, and my attention was no longer something she could command at will. Now, she had to earn it. So, she put in more effort. She laughed at my jokes, even the ones that barely qualified as amusing. But I wasn't fooled. I saw through the act. She wasn't changing out of sincerity. She was testing the waters, waiting for me to acknowledge her efforts so she could reclaim her dominance. I refused to play along, and for once, she was the one feeling unsteady. One afternoon, I was lounging in the living room, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone when she stepped in front of me. Her stance was uncertain, her expression unusually hesitant. "I miss how things used to be," she murmured. There was weight to her words, something genuine lurking beneath them. I set my phone aside and met her gaze without speaking. She hesitated, drawing in a breath, her hands fidgeting as though she was searching for the right words. "It feels like there's a distance between us," she admitted. My face remained neutral. I wanted to see where she was going with this. Finally, she eased onto the couch beside me, her posture rigid with unease. "Can we talk?" There it was. The moment I had been waiting for, the moment she acknowledged what she had been unwilling to face. She had played the game for too long and lost her grip on it. I wasn't interested in rubbing it in. I just needed to be honest. I exhaled, leaning forward, resting my arms on my knees. "I love you, Diana," I said evenly. "But I'm done with the games." She studied me, her expression unreadable, but I could tell she was actually listening this time. "If you want affection, it has to be real," I continued. "Not something you offer when it serves your interests. That's not love, that's manipulation, and I won't be part of it anymore." She parted her lips as if to argue, but no words came. Instead, she lowered her gaze, twisting her fingers in her lap. "This marriage isn't about control," I said, my tone softer but unwavering. "If we want to make this work, we have to stop treating each other like opponents. I was never meant to be your rival." Silence stretched between us, but for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel like a battle of wills. We weren't waiting for the other to cave. We were just two people, face to face with reality. She gave a slow nod, exhaling a breath she must have been holding for days. "I hear you," she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. The changes weren't dramatic. They were small, subtle shifts I might have overlooked before. She asked about my day, not out of obligation, but because she genuinely wanted to know. She didn't sigh in frustration when I said no. Instead, she asked why, and actually considered my answer. It was different. And while I appreciated it, I didn't rush to meet her halfway. That was the old me. I had learned my lesson. Love isn't a transaction, and I refused to abide by those terms anymore. If our marriage was going to endure, it had to be built on mutual respect, not on her deciding when I was deserving of affection. So I let her put in the effort, not to be vindictive, but because I needed to know she meant it. And she did. She stopped weaponizing intimacy. She didn't retreat when things didn't go her way. She finally understood that our relationship wasn't a game of control. It was a partnership. But the biggest transformation wasn't hers. It was mine. I had learned to value myself, to recognize that I deserved a relationship where love and respect weren't conditional. I never wanted to walk away from Diana. I loved her. But I also refused to be manipulated ever again. And because I set that boundary and stood firm, our marriage became something real. Not flawless, no relationship is, but honest. No more games, no more power plays. Just two people figuring out how to love each other the right way. And let me tell you, standing up for myself, that was the best decision I ever made. Now, I'm not saying this is a one-size-fits-all solution. Every relationship is unique. But if someone constantly makes you earn their affection, ask yourself, is this love or control? Because the truth is, real love isn't a prize you have to win. This story has come to an end. True love is not a game of control, nor is it a transaction where affection is given in exchange for compliance. It is built on respect, sincerity, and equality. If you constantly have to earn someone's attention and warmth, ask yourself, is this love or manipulation? Everyone deserves a relationship where feelings are expressed not as a means to an end, but from the heart. Only by recognizing your own worth can you build a strong, honest partnership based on mutual understanding. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Real love won't break because of it. It will only grow stronger. What's your opinion? Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from, and I'll say goodbye to you until the next video. Goodbye.